everyone, and welcome to Name Hero. I'm Ryan, the founder and CEO. In this video, I want to show you how to set up your initial configuration once you deploy your cloud dedicated server. Now, if you've ever deployed a VPS with us here at Name Hero, the setup is pretty much the same, but I just wanted to run through a fresh setup just so I could kind of highlight just the differences, how you log in through the interface. But again, it's very similar, so if you've already done a VPS, then you can pretty much use those same steps. But again, just to clear up any confusion amongst the two products. VPS and dedicated are very similar in the fact that you still have full root access, but with our dedicated, you actually have full dedicated processing power. So it's a lot more of a workhorse than a VPS. Now, our VPS hosting is, of course, it's a lot cheaper because since it's actually a virtual instance inside of inside of a larger physical server. But with the cloud dedicated, it's actually your dedicated equipment inside the cloud. So, I think for most businesses, they can start out with a VPS. If you've grown past the point of reseller or basic web hosting, you can start with VPS and then you can upgrade on towards the dedicated. Or if you already have, a very popular website, or if you have a lot of customers, if you're reselling hosting or have an agency, then a cloud dedicated might be your starting point. But really, it's each individual person or business, what's best for them. And, feel free to always reach out to our sales team if you have any doubts. We try to make things at Name Hero very affordable because, we are entrepreneurs, all our team are entrepreneurs, and we understand how budgets work. Sometimes if you're just starting up, you don't have a tremendous budget. But then as your business grows, you need more. And so we've tried to develop these products in a manner that will allow you to take advantage of them and also have them at a budgeted rate. So I did a video recently called How to Deploy a Cloud Dedicated Server, and it's over here on our YouTube channel. So you can get here by typing in Google Name Hero YouTube channel. And then you'll see this video in there. You can search for it on YouTube, and I'm also going to have this on the dedicated page. But it basically just walks you through going through the cloud dedicated setup. So, basically you select your server and deploy it and all that. So this tutorial assumes you've already done that. And so that's kind of where I'm going to pick up now. So I'm going to head over here to the Name Hero client area if you're following along. And I want to go navigate to the server so we can access NodeWorks and begin setting it up. So I'm going to click here. And you can see I've got a couple test servers here because I got a lot going on, but I'm going to this standard cloud dedicated because that's the one I used in my deployment video. And so you can see it's very similar. Again, if you've had reseller service with us before, it's very, very similar, almost identical here as far as the interface is concerned. But the first thing I need to do is I need to set up these name servers so I can start. So when I add sites, I can assign them these name servers, and they'll actually be on the dedicated instance. So what I want to do is I need to go into NodeWorks. And I'm brought to here. Now, the first time you access this, you will get that security warning if you're using Chrome, and that's because it's a self-signed certificate. So, of course, it is safe, but you wouldn't want to send visitors to a self-signed certificate. And that's because most likely once you first deploy it, you don't have your host name set up. So I'm going to show you how to do that as well. So I want to log in with my root credentials. And in the client area, if you click Login Details, you will see these. But you have to have two-factor enabled. So that's just to make sure that, if someone would so happen get into your Name Hero account, they couldn't see it. Now, if you have two-factor on, that's pretty ironclad because you actually have to have your phone where the private key is stored on to see it. So that kind of makes sure that the original owner is the only person to be able to access that. And it's also the root password that you define during your setup. So you would have gotten a one-time email with that as well, but those emails are not archived anywhere for security reasons. If you ever need to reset your root password, please reach out to our team, and there is a process to do it, but we can help you out. Okay, so knowing that, I'm going to log in. I'm using my email address here. It's my user. And that's the difference with NodeWorks and, for example, WebHost Manager. WebHost Manager is just a username root. But with NodeWorks, it's actually your email address. By default, you're going to have just a generic one at Name Hero, and then you can change it. So once I log in, I'll show you. Okay, so the first time you log into NodeWorks, and NodeWorks is Interworks' version of WebHost Manager. It's the master or the reseller control panel. This is where you manage your server. It's where you add your accounts. But if you notice under My Info, by default, this account's created, this root account. But if you click on Edit, you can then edit it to, put your name in here and put your email address. And then if you want to change the root password, you can change it right here. And I always recommend using this generator or, using a very, very strong password. You don't want to be able to memorize this password. It should be one that's very tough to guess because this is complete access to your server. Remember, it's dedicated, so they could, an attacker could essentially have access to a lot of stuff. So please make that strong as possible. Additionally, if you click on, I think it's NodeWorks authentication, you can add two-factor. That's also a good idea to have a strong password as well as two-factor, and that'll make sure your server stays safe and secure. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I want to set up this host name so it will begin to resolve, and then I can actually access NodeWorks from this. So what I need to do is I'm just going to copy this, and I need to set up a SiteWorks account for it. So let me minimize NodeWorks. Under SiteWorks, I'm going to go to Accounts, and I'm going to go to Add a SiteWorks account, and I'm going to type this in as the master domain. So I'm actually typing in the host name as the master domain here. And I only have one IP, so it's going to share that one. If you have more, you could assign a dedicated IP, but nowadays you don't really need to do that. But if you want to, you can. It's all personal preference. Database is localhost. This is the username, so this is just the username for the account. I like to use just the default, but it's really up to you. Nickname, so sometimes we see when we migrate accounts from cPanel, this will be the cPanel username, and then this will modify it to fit NodeWorks, so that if there's ever a conflict. But you can choose a nickname if you want, but I don't really see the need, but if you do, feel free to do so. I'm going to enter my email on this account. Now, remember, this is going to be an individual SiteWorks account, so you probably want to use, your master email or an email that only you have access to, so no one else could get access to this. I use the password generator, so it's secure and strong. I said the language, I'm just going to use English. I'm going to use the default theme and default menu style. Again, you can customize everything inside of NodeWorks. It's really powerful software. I don't need to really worry about additional IPs or the PHP version for this because I just want to set up an SSL. So there's nothing, I don't want to customize anything. So I'm just going to go ahead and click Save. It's just going to take a second here to generate all that, to generate the account. And again, this is just the first time I get in NodeWorks. I've got to set up an account for my host name, and then I also have to set up an account for my primary domain. So if I go back to my client area, my primary domain is keydiets.com. So I want to set up an account for that too. So I'm just going to copy that, go back in here and add a SiteWorks account for KeyDiets. I'm just going to paste that. Now notice we're not putting www in front of these. You don't need to do that because that would actually create it as a subdomain. You can actually do both www and the non-www just doing the root domain like this. So keep that in mind. It's going to give us a username, just KeyDiets. Again, you can do a nickname if you want. Your primary domain should be your email or a secure email that only you have access to or your trusted circle or business partners. For this one, if this is your primary domain, it's likely you're going to have some content on it. So you might want to go through some of these settings for PHP version, for example. I like 7.2, but see, if you wanted to be able to select multiple versions, you could just click these on here, and it's going to use 7.2 by default, but you could also have the ability inside of SiteWorks to select multiple versions. So I'm just going to do that. The package template, so this is allows you to define like predetermined templates, like how much space, how much bandwidth. There's an unlimited one created by default, and so I'm going to use that. And if I click this plus, then I've got the ability that I could create a new package if I wanted to limit the space or the bandwidth. But that's really personal preference. Since this is my dedicated server and my primary domain, I want it all unlimited. Package options, I want to set all this to yes, because I want to be able to back up and have CGI enabled and cron tab access and all that. I'd say most accounts you create, you're going to want yes on all of this anyway. So by default they are. FPM settings, so this is the amount of max children requests and max requests, process management, and idle timeout that PHP has access to on that account. So these values need to be higher the more popular the site is or the more intense of an application the site is running. I always recommend just use these defaults and see how the site runs. It's your dedicated server. Depending on the resources you bought, you probably have a good idea, and you can up these as you need to. Our team will help you tweak these numbers, but I always recommend just default and just see how it goes at first. All right, so Softaculous at NameHero, all of our cloud dedicateds come with a complimentary Softaculous license. This is what provides you one-click WordPress installs, one-click WordPress staging, and other applications, Joomla, Drupal, WHMCS. So I like to give every account access. If you are reselling this account to a customer, then maybe you want to bill more for this. So you could say yes or no depending on how much the user or the customer has paid you. But I want access to it. So I'm going to save it, and it just takes a second to go run through all that stuff and do its thing. And now we're done. Okay, so now we have our primary domain set up and our host name. Now, at first, you're going to, we just created these accounts, so we have no content on them. If you already have your master domain, in my example, Key Diets, and you already have content on it, then you need to upload that content. You need to migrate over your data. Our team will help you with that, if you need to do a migration. And at the end of my deployment video, I showed you where to go submit a ticket. So, rewatch that if you need help with that. I'm also going to do a bunch of tutorials on how to migrate from cPanel and to get your data in there. So, check out those videos if that pertains to you. But if you're just starting to, if maybe you have a new master domain you're using and no content, then of course, then we can go ahead and proceed. But it's important because if you're already using these name servers and then you follow what I'm about to show you, you will disconnect other sites. So you need to make sure if any domain is using these currently that you have all the data on this server, because I'm going to associate these name servers with this dedicated only. So keep that in mind as well. And that's why some customers, when they're setting up maybe their first dedicated and they have other assets elsewhere, they just use a different domain so they can kind of start fresh with everything. It's really up to you. If you own a web hosting company and you're a reseller, that might not be possible. So, it's up. There's both ways to do it, and our team is standing by to address any of those questions. So now the next thing I want to do is set up these name servers so I can actually connect domains to the server. So I want to log into the Siteworks account for Key Diets because I need to add some DNS records. So here's Siteworks. And again, this is Interworks' version of cPanel. This is what your customers or clients will use to manage their sites. Under administration, or maybe it's hosting features, I'm going to find DNS. And let's see, where are we here? Let's go to domains, DNS records. So it's under hosting features, domain DNS records. So this is where I'm going to add those A records for our private name servers. If I click view records, you can see these are the default records that have already been added. But since I'm using private name servers, I need to set these up individually. So you can see I can choose the record from this menu. I want to add an A record, so it's already highlighted, and I'll just click go. And I want to do one for ns1.keydiets.com. Your TTL, this is your time to live. If you click this will explain it. How fast that this record is going to go live. I would just keep it default, unless you know what you're doing there. If I go back to my client area, I want to use this primary IP and copy it. Now, if you bought multiple IPs when you set up your server, you might want to assign different IPs to different name servers. It's really up to you. It's your preference. By default, the method I'm showing works just fine. So this is how I recommend doing it unless you specifically want otherwise. There's really no difference in that setup technically, but if you have different reasons, then go for it. But in this tutorial, we're going to use this IP for both name servers. So I go back to DNS records and I'm going to paste this IP address here and click save. All right, so now that's been added. I need to do one for the second. So I'm going to copy or go again, ns2, and paste that IP in there again. All right, so now if I refresh this page, you'll see view records. I've got A records for NS1 and NS2. Now, there's one final piece that a lot of people miss. I need to actually register these with my domain registrar for Key Diets. So this gets to be a little questionable because if your domain is not registered with NameHero, you need to log into where it's registered and do this. So GoDaddy, Namecheap, your old host, wherever your domain's registered, you have to do this. And again, you have to do this or they won't function properly. So if my domain's registered with Name Hero. So if I go to domains and my domains, I can easily do this here. And we recommend to register your domain with us or transfer your domain with us because it makes it simple, because you can follow this tutorial. Our team has access and can help you. But if you don't want to do that, we do understand, but unfortunately it's hard for us to troubleshoot GoDaddy, troubleshoot Namecheap. We have enough with Name Hero. So you might have to ask their team if you're not quite sure in the interface how to do that. All right, so I want to find Key Diets, just here. Again, I've got several domains here for testing purposes. And I want to go to private name servers here under manage. And if I scroll down, it says register a name server. So I want to do NS1, and I'm going to paste that same IP address. Save. It just takes a second to run its course. All right, successfully registered. Now we want to do NS2 and paste that same IP. And save. All right, so now our private name servers are set up on the dedicated server, and they're also registered at the domain registrar. So now if we are planning on using Key Diets for this, which we are, we need to change the name servers for Key Diets. And again, it's important, if you have content, make sure your content's migrated over before you change this, because I just created Key Diets, I don't have any content. So now when people go to Key Diets, when I make this next change, they're not going to see anything. So just keep that in mind. If I go to name servers, I can change them here. This takes a second to bring it up, and I want to change to ns1.keydiets.com and ns2.keydiets.com. And again, this is when it may be of value to you to register a fresh, clean domain, so you're not interrupting a live site. All right, we're going to change the name servers. Now, when you do this, this doesn't always propagate or go live immediately. If you've been to Key Diets or your domain, within the last 24 hours, 48 hours, it's likely these name servers are cached to your internet service provider, and so these have to propagate through. And generally speaking, it takes about a couple hours in the United States. If you're not seeing it after a couple hours, we say wait 24 to 48 hours before getting concerned. If you're an international customer outside of the United States, most ISPs are quick nowadays, but in some countries, especially some countries to where they're just getting developed with the internet, it takes up to 2 or 3 days. So just keep that in mind too when you make DNS changes. Okay, so now we need to set up our SSL certificates for our host name. And of course, for this host name here, this deadtest.keydiets.com, remember this is what we use for here. Since it is on Key Diets, our records are now added since we changed the name servers. So the A record's added, but we need to set up an SSL certificate. Now this SSL certificate won't generate unless the domain has propagated. So we need to wait until our domain is propagated until this will generate. Now, so just for testing purposes, I'm going to show you how it's done. And it might not generate here because I just set this up, depending on how fast. I'm using Google Internet, Google Fiber. So depending on how fast they flush their name servers, this might not work, but it's the same process. If I click SiteWorks, go back into, I'm going back to the hostname account now, and I want to go to SSL, and this is under domains. And you can see there's no SSL certificate installed. With all of our VPS and our Cloud Dedicateds, we have Let's Encrypt automatically installed. So this is going to do the automatic and free SSL certificates. So you're going to get free SSL on your host name and all of your sites just by working with us here at Name Hero. Not all Interworks vendors out there have this implemented, so this is kind of an added bonus at Name Hero. I believe SSL should be free and automatic for everyone because it makes a safer internet. So I just want to click Generate All with Let's Encrypt, and I want to do it for just my host name, and I'm going to click Generate. And it's going to run its course. Now, again, depending on DNS propagation, this might kick an error. It might work. So we'll see. Doing a live video, it's kind of a coin toss what's going to work and what's not. But again, I'm showing this because maybe you're setting up your domain for your first time, and maybe you do experience this. And private key SSL generated. All right, so it did. We generated a SSL certificate. So now this is all installed. Your certificate signing request, this is primarily used if you're going to go out and buy an extended validation certificate. So this really is not needed, so don't worry about it. If you want to set it up just so it's green, you can, but it's not needed to have SSL. Okay, so now I'm going back to NodeWorks because this generated, and I want to keep SiteWorks open. This generated this secure certificate, but I need to install this inside of NodeWorks. So what I want to go to now is inside of NodeWorks, or rather, I need to find System Services. Just 1 second while I find it here. Server, here we go. It's under SSL certificates under Server. Sorry, I'm still getting familiar with the NodeWorks interface a little bit, but so under Server, I'll find SSL, and you can see by default, these are just self-signed certificates. We want to use the Let's Encrypt zone that we just generated because it's free. Now, some people might say, well, my server host name, I want a paid certificate. Hey, no problem. If you want to pay for it, you can. I think Let's Encrypt works just fine. But if you want an extended validation or maybe even a wild card, hit up our sales team and they'll give you the pricing for it. Me personally, I like Let's Encrypt, so I'm going to use it. It's free. Why not? So now I need to go to update server certificates and certificate source. I want to choose copy and paste because I'm going to copy and paste the one we just generated. So now I go back to my hostname's SiteWorks account where we just did this, and I'm going to click View Private Key. And now I'm going to copy it. Everything from beginning to end. So all the way from the top to the bottom. Go over here and I'm going to paste it. Now, SSL certificate. I'm going to go back into here. I'm going to go back. SSL certificate is here. And I want to copy from beginning to the end. Copy it. Go back and paste it. And finally, the SSL chain certificate. I'm going to go back in here. Go to back. SSL chain certificate, view, copy it, and go back to NodeWorks and paste it. All right, so now this takes that SSL certificate that I just generated for free, and it's going to apply it to my host name. Now I've got the option, what services do I want to apply it to? So my first option is just the web server default SSL certificate. I want it on there. Interworks SSL, so this means this will work for both NodeWorks and SiteWorks. So yes, I want that. FTP server, yes. SMTP, yes. And our Dovecat IMAP POP3 server, yes. So I want to use it for all of these. And again, it's up to you if you want to use different ones. But by default, this is what I recommend. Since it's a new server, yes, we're going to go ahead and restart all these services so they'll pick up this SSL. And we'll click Save. And again, it just takes a second here because it's actually taking that certificate and it's applying it to all these services. And then after it applies it, it's going to restart each service. So it just takes a second. Alrighty. So now we have our host name shows in here and our Let's Encrypt shows up here. And this shows the expire date. So now we're all set. Let's Encrypt is installed, and now we can go to deadtest.keydiets.com, and it will have SSL. Now it's important to note, as we talked about DNS propagation, since I just generated this, it might take about an hour or two for it to pick up in Chrome. If you use, I'm on a Mac, so if I went to Safari and used a private or incognito Safari window, I'd probably be able to see it. Firefox or Opera or another browser, I could probably see it. But you might not see this right off the bat, and that's because your browser is still using that self-signed certificate. It just takes a little bit for that to pick it up. You can go in to the browser settings and delete the self-signed and all that, but really, me personally, I just wait 24 hours and you'll start to see it. We're using other browsers, you'll be able to see it as well, especially other computers. All right, so now we're set. If I go back to user accounts, and accounts in SiteWorks, I can go ahead and install my SSL for KeyDiets, my primary domain. So I'll just click SiteWorks for that one, and I'll go down to SSL under domains and generate off Let's Encrypt. Generate. So this will generate me an SSL certificate for the KeyDiets domain. So when people go to KeyDiets, it's secure and we have SSL on it. Again, same process here. It's just taking that and generating it through. Once again, DNS is just set up, so if you get an error right off the bat, then try it again in a few hours. Let's Encrypt, issued by Let's Encrypt. So yeah, so we are all set here. Same with CSR. Don't worry about it. If you want to set it up, you can. But now our initial server configuration is completed, meaning that we've got our host name set up, we've got our primary domain set up, our name servers are set up, we have SSL and everything. So at this point, I'm now ready to start adding sites to my server. So for example, I'm just going to go back here to my domains. I've got several domains here. Let's find one like Real Bonds. Let's say I want to set up hosting for realbonds.com. I can go back into NodeWorks, click Add Siteworks Account. I can do realbonds.com. Again, same IP. We don't use IP6. The database is on localhost. We're going to use the auto username. Nickname I don't worry about. Email, if I was setting this up for a customer, maybe I'm an agency and I'm setting up hosting for the customer of mine that owns Real Bonds, I would enter their email address in here because this creates them a login to Siteworks that only they have access to, so where they can set up their own site. So it's really up to you. Are you setting up this site for yourself? Is it one of your internal domains, or is this a customer? So that determines what email address you use here. I'm using Ryan at namehero.com because it's mine. I'm going to generate a password. I might have messed it up where I clicked in there. Whoops. And I'm getting some errors. Oh, I bet you it doesn't like my username, so I already used it. Let's switch this to Ryan, or just use contact. I might not use that one either. Let's just do ryan.gray at namehero.com. And let's see. So it's not liking my email address. Let's go back in. All right. So if this happens to you, because this happened to me before, I probably caught it inside a brief update. So NodeWorks, once it deploys, it does auto update, and it's probably forced one right now. So I'm just going to give it a quick second and let it complete that update. And then I'll resume this video. All right, sorry about that. Actually, what happened is where I applied that SSL, it logged me out of everything. And so for this demo purpose, if you notice up here in my browser URL window, I can go now to deadtest.keydiets/nodeworks. So you can see HTTPS, if I just type in /nodeworks, now I can access it from not my temporary IP. So now I'm not going to get that annoying self-signed warning when I go to my host name to get into NodeWorks. So now let's log in again. And it makes me feel much better seeing the lock. I don't know about you. Okay, so now we can set up Real Bonds. So if we go to Siteworks, Accounts, add a Siteworks account, realbonds.com. Again, keeping all this default. And I do think I can use the same email address twice. We'll try it again here. I don't think that was my error. Yep. So using a strong password, write this down, or since you do have access to NodeWorks, you can reset it. But, if you're creating for a client, this would be the time to copy and paste that to them. You can define anything just like we did in our previous one. Give them access to multiple versions of PHP, set their package template to something different, different space or whatnot. FPM, we're going to keep those defaults. Softaculous, I do want access, so click Save. And it just takes a second for all this to put it inside and provision it on the server. So just have a little bit of patience. It doesn't take too long. Okay, so now Real Bonds is set up, and so now I can change the name servers for Real Bonds if I'm ready. If I need to put content on this site, if it's an existing site, I need to upload the content or migrate or whatnot. So again, need to go through my migration videos that I'm going to have on our YouTube channel. But this is just a demo domain, so I need to go here and go to name servers for Real Bonds, and I want to enter in the name servers. Again, data missing because I don't have anything set up for it. So this is going to use the name servers I set up, so it's going to be now on my dedicated server. Click change. And okay, so I've got an issue with Real Bonds, but this is how I do it. This is how I would do it and save it. My demo account, I probably have something disconnected to test it, but that's how it's done. And now once you do that, then Real Bonds or your domain is going to be on your server here. And so then you can give the Siteworks access to your customer. And if you say, well, Ryan, what's the URL I give my customer? Well, you can give them if you look up in the window here, deadtest.keydiets.com/Siteworks. So that will be the URL they go to. So they can click it or enter it, and it'll automatically send them to a control panel that just they have access to. And they'll log in with their email address and the password that we just set up. So then they can get inside and begin managing their site. And a lot of people would want to go to Softaculous and install WordPress, or install the application they want to use. So if your customer, wants to get their WordPress online, they can easily use this and set up WordPress and be on their way. Likewise, if they wanted to go old school and oops, too quick here. If they want to upload, they could go to File Manager and they could upload in here inside of public HTML. They could upload their files in here. Or they could use FTP. It's up to them. I like one-click installs of WordPress if it's a WordPress site. And then you could use a WordPress migration plugin if you wanted to migrate that way. Or if you wanted our team to do it, we could do that as well. But that's how I do my initial dedicated server setup. That's how I add my first site to it. And now I'm really on my way to using my dedicated server and really garnering a whole new level of power. Dedicated processor, all of this RAM, all of this disk space. So, that's the real value you're getting inside of a cloud dedicated is, essentially you are your own web host. You have your own machine now. And it's important, this is 100% white labeled. So yes, you see Interworks and Siteworks, but you notice you don't see Name Hero anywhere in here. If I went to Interworks, I can, or if I went to Interworks or NodeWorks here, I can modify my theme. I can download the Siteworks theme and make something custom, if I'm running a hosting company. And I'm going to show some video tutorials on that as well, how to download the theme and make your edits. But that's the setup in a nutshell. It was not painless. It was not very painful. There wasn't a command prompt or any code that had to be done. Everything's done inside of our browser. If you followed me step by step, then you're all set. And again, our team is standing by if you have any questions. But that's as quick and easy as it is to set up a cloud dedicated. If you have any questions though, feel free to let us know. If you head over to Name Hero at the top here, you can call us, you can chat us, or you can click support. We have tutorials here on our YouTube channel. We're getting more and more and more Interworks tutorials there. If I just click Name Hero, you'll see it's going to start this video here, but you'll see we have tons of tutorials coming here. So there's plenty of places that you can find, assistance. And of course, our team is standing by too. So if you go down here, you can see we're here 24/7, 365. Doesn't matter what hour of the night or what day of the week it is, we will come and help you. So don't hesitate to reach out. So thanks everyone for watching. I'm Ryan, and this is Name Hero. It's my pleasure to do this video. Thank you all for your business and using us here at namehero.com.